They don't give a hoot about us except to get us to vote for them, and most of them are lawyers anyhow.
I think they're all the same. Republicans, Democrats, whatever. Once they get to Washington, they're in it for themselves.
The process is pretty corrupt, and that's why we're having so many problems these days.
The only way things are going to change is if people get mad enough to change them.
Finally, somebody not beholden to partisan politics, who knows the system from the ground up and wants to change it. He's been traveling the country, talking to the people, speaking out on radio, on television, in town meetings. He's the former governor of California, Jerry Brown, speaking the truth about America. Listen.
It's the money, it's the lobbyists, and it's the incumbent protection system. They want unlimited tenure. They want to associate themselves with the powerful. They vote themselves midnight pay raises, so they make more than 99% of the American people. Now, that system has got to be changed.
At his announcement speech in Philadelphia, Jerry Brown continued to speak out against greed and privilege.
While the net worth of the average American family declined, the Forbes 400 richest American families saw their collective wealth increase by 300%. Did any other Americans see their net worth go up 3 times, 2 times? No! These stunning gains by the very rich didn't result from the success of hard work or as a reward earned by expanding the nation's prosperity and abundance to the benefit of all. And just yesterday, in the Philadelphia Sunday paper, it said it all. America, what went wrong? In a 9-part series, it asked the question, how the game was rigged against the middle class. It's right there, right there. See that big line? That's the few. The middle class, their portion is right at the bottom. Our democracy has been the object of a hostile takeover, engineered by a confederacy of corruption, careerism, and campaign consultants. And money has been the lubricant greasing the deal. Incredible sums, hundreds of millions of dollars from political action committees, from lobbyists, from wealthy patrons.
In a television interview, he expanded on that theme.
So what we have here is a bunch of people in charge, starting with President Bush, and these powerful captains of industry who make 100 times more than the people that work for them, unlike any other country in the world. And they are creating a system where America declines, but they keep getting richer. And people get poorer and poorer, and as more people get poorer, you have more crime. And as you have more crime, you need more policemen, you need more prisons, you need more surveillance, and you have to have less civil liberties. That's the track we're on. And there is no evidence yet that Bush gets it, that Bush understands that he's presiding over the disintegration of the American idea, the American freedom, the American abundance.
In Philadelphia, he didn't hold back.
The insatiable appetite for campaign dollars has turned the government into a stop and shop for every greedy and narrow interest in this country. The leaders of Washington's incumbent party, both Democrats and Republicans, have failed their duty. They've placed their own interest above the national interest. They have allowed themselves to be trapped and in some cases corrupted by the powerful forces of greed. It's time for them to go.
At 53, Edmund G. Brown, Jr., a former 2-term governor of California, has seen the process close up from the inside for nearly 2 decades. Out of that experience has come a new realization and some powerful and challenging ideas. And the people are listening.
Get what the idea is. The idea is to create unequal access to the mind of the electorate. And based on the unequal access, you get to win. And the way you get unequal access is to get a lot of money. And the place where you get a lot of money is from the top 1%, not 99% of the people who have to live under what's created as a result.
For me, the problem is jobs. I'm really worried. Factories are closing. A lot of my friends are out of work, and no one in Washington is doing anything about it.
And if I don't get some work coming in or the economy doesn't shape up pretty soon, I'm going to be doing the same thing. I'll be out. I'll be pushing a broom or something.
I thought people were supposed to be worrying about the future. What is it going to be like for my children?
The current system promotes tenure over statesmanship. It erects barriers to real participation. Re-election upon re-election of the same incumbents occurs at the expense of new ideas, new energy, and honest representation. That's why I favor limiting the number of terms of those who serve in Congress. We'll never revitalize our market economy until the stranglehold of unrestrained greed is broken and every single American is protected by an economic Bill of Rights. We know we must reform our system of health care to cover every single person. That's every one of us. But as long as the medical industry and the insurance companies are allowed to pour tens of millions of dollars into the campaign pockets of the people in Congress, nothing will get done. Understand that. We must break that stranglehold.
That man is speaking what we all know to be the truth, and it's time we listened to him and did something about it.
I like what he says. It takes guts to take on everybody, including your own party.
I run for president because I believe this country deserves a real political choice. The election must be about something more than a debate between Democratic insiders and Republican insiders, debating over marginal changes. It's time to choose. The entrenched political establishment and the media believe that our country's on the right track and that its problems can be met with incremental efforts. If you really believe that, please don't vote for me. However, if you search your heart and my message rings true to you, then it's not enough to vote for me. If you share my vision, then join in this candidacy. It's time to choose. Stand with them or join with us.
I'm willing not only to join, but to follow and to become extremely active behind a person who I think can really change the system and make a difference.
Well, I remember when Jerry Brown was governor. I remember very well. He was a good governor. He got things done, and he looked ahead to the things that needed done. And when the opposition found out, and this is true of a lot of things, they find out that they can't lick him with facts, they start a campaign of whispering and laughing that he sleeps on the floor or he drives an old car or something like that. Just anything to show that he's not one of us type of thing.
As two-term governor of California, Jerry Brown was regarded as one of the most innovative and independent leaders of our time. Right from the start, he bucked the political establishment by rejecting the special privileges and wasteful perks of the governor's office. They gossiped when he moved into an apartment and shut down the multi-million-dollar governor's mansion built by Ronald Reagan. They ridiculed him when he cut his own salary and announced budget cuts of up to $570 million in state spending. But they had a lot less to say when he balanced 7 budgets and cut income and inheritance taxes. A tough, no-nonsense fiscal manager, he fought the fat cats and lobbyists to keep government priorities focused on the needs of the people. Under his leadership, aid to California's public schools was tripled. He helped small businesses. He made sure women played an important role in government. And despite the recession of the late 70s, more than 2 million new jobs were created in California, 25% of the new jobs in the nation. Without raising taxes, he found the money to improve rural health care, family planning, and prenatal programs, established rape crisis centers, and started the California Conservation Corps to put inner-city youth to work rebuilding cities, parks, and their own lives. But his social consciousness and compassion didn't stop him from signing some of the toughest anti-crime legislation in the nation, resulting in the elimination of early parole and establishing longer terms for tens of thousands of offenders, or from signing the no-nonsense use a gun, go to jail law. When Governor Brown opposed offshore drilling and led the fight to enact the toughest environmental laws in the nation, the big money power brokers and oil companies were outraged, so much so that they labeled him a wild-eyed dreamer when he initiated the nation's first alternative energy program for wind, solar, and geothermal energy. and followed up with the most advanced and comprehensive energy efficiency standards in America. Governor Moonbeam, they called him, to make fun of his ideas. Ideas that showed insight and concern about the destruction of the ozone layer long before it became a national issue. Ideas that offered practical solutions to cutting our dependence on foreign oil years before the energy crisis. Yes, they tried hard to make him look foolish, but he has a record of real accomplishments that made sense then and even more now.
How will you achieve real results?
I'll tell you, when I was governor, people said, well, you can't create electricity from sun and wind. California is now creating enough electricity from the sun and the wind to cover millions of homes every year. And hundreds of millions of dollars are being made in private businesses, many of them run by Republicans, producing alternative energy. And we could do 1,000 times more at the national level if there was the commitment. But there's not the commitment because the people who give the money and who control the incumbent party are involved in another business that's in competition. So what's the practicality? The only practicality is to weaken the stranglehold of the corrupt status quo. That's the precondition for anything. I mean, you got to start there. That's what the campaign is.
In a TV interview, Jerry Brown went to the heart of the matter.
The majority of people are seeing their incomes, their livelihoods, their hope and opportunity diminished by the policies of those in charge in Washington. That's just an economic fact. And that kind of stress then reduces incentive and opportunity. And secondly, we're not putting the kind of national resources into the classroom that we put in to the military or into the prison or into the intelligence agencies. Those are the things that catch people's attention because it's removed from people. Schools are in every neighborhood and community. That's what democracy has to work with more than anything else, and that's what ought to claim the first attention on our money and on our creativity. We could do that, but there is not the political will. People think the problem is over in Russia, they think the problem is down in El Salvador, they think it's over somewhere in Cambodia. It's right here. And that's the scandal. And I always have to come back to that. It's the breakdown of democracy and the corruption of the promise of this country that has occurred over the last, maybe you might say, 25 years. And that's what we have to get at. And as we do that, you're going to find us getting a handle on crime, on the environment, on energy, and on the whole civility of our society.
This guy, Jerry Brown, is the only guy who stands for the working people, and he tells them the truth.
We were a couple of guys we were talking about a little while ago. We said two things have to happen. People have to start hurting enough to do something about it, and they got to get an idea that their little hurt is part of the big hurt in this country. And Jerry Brown's the only guy I know who understands as these two go together. That's why I'm voting for him.
Being in the petrochemical industry, I'll tell you the truth, I never thought I'd go for Jerry Brown. But the more I listen to him, the more he makes sense.
He's a man who cares for all of us, and I have a great deal of respect for him, and he's going to have my support.
How can I, as somebody who's raised $18 million over the last 15 years and have been truly in the business of politics, now come on and say, okay, now we want a grassroots revolution? Well, I'll tell you, I know how the system works. I've been a part of it. And out of that experience, and having been away from it for 8 years, I've come back and said, it is so rotten, it is so paralyzed, that I think we ought to try to bring the people back by limiting contributions to $100. I am willing to cut the umbilical cord to the corrupt power that is holding our country back. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I have a lot of flaws. Everything you suggested in your question has truth to it. But if I don't make myself available with the resources and the time and the notoriety that I have, tell me, who's going to do it?
I think that everyone back in D.C. has forgotten who put them there and why we put them there, and what their job really is.
I mean, the economy's in a total mess, and I'm really worried about my future. I mean, I don't know what those guys in Washington are doing. They seem to be more concerned about what's going on in other countries than they are concerned about what's going on here.
From the time they set foot in the door in Washington, they think of nothing except to get reelected. You can tell it in the way they vote.
I think Brown's the man to finally tell the boys back there that the party's over, the free ride's over.
One of the commentators, William Safire, wrote a column back in 1986, and he said greed should be removed as one of the 7 deadly sins. That's what he said. He said, because greed creates the engine of economic growth from which money can be gathered, which then you can do charitable things. But at the heart of a good society is greed. Now, as long as you have that kind of a crackpot notion that flies in the face of every moralist, theologian, and prophet, and Bible, and religious text ever known to humankind, it just goes like all of a sudden in 1980, we figured out a new way to be human beings. Then you're going to get the savings and loan scandal.
And in his announcement speech, Jerry Brown told us how we can take back America.
I need each of you to commit yourselves with me to work change for the common good. You and I must make our voices heard. Both you and I will need to sacrifice in order to achieve higher goals: decency, respect, duty, and honor. The very things that were embraced in this hall 200 years ago. You and I, each in our small way, must stand up to the forces that overwhelm us. You and I must deliver a message to those who run the United States like a private club that we are going to work change, fundamental change, and now.
Jerry Brown was born April 7th, 1938, the son of former California Governor Pat Brown and Bernice Lane. He has 3 sisters. Kathleen now serves as treasurer of the state of California. Growing up in such a family, he learned current events, but something more, the value of helping others. Learning the art of self-defense and becoming a champion debater would come in handy in later life. For a time, he considered the priesthood, but then went on to UC Berkeley and a law degree at Yale. In 1970, he became California's Secretary of State. 4 years later, he was elected governor, then re-elected by a landslide. When he decided not to seek a 3rd term, Newsweek wrote, "It is unlikely the state will ever have a more scrupulously honest governor." Unlike other former office holders who used their connections for personal gain, Brown chose instead to expand his understanding of the world and its people. He traveled extensively throughout Asia, studied in Japan, and met with political leaders in China and the Soviet Union. Time with Mother Teresa in India renewed his commitment to use his knowledge and experience to bring about change here at home.
Here I was a couple of years ago, in politics all my life, raising all this special interest money for the Democratic Party. And then they said it wasn't enough. And suddenly, I stepped back for a moment, and it all came so clear to me. It's the money. The reason nothing works, the reason this country is going down the drain, it's the money. The powerful insiders and the Washington lobbyists and their bought and paid for politicians have, through the pure force of their money, taken control of our government. So it only works for the privileged few and not for the majority of hard-working, long-suffering Americans. And that's just not what this country's supposed to be about. And that's why I began this campaign at the birthplace of our democracy, Independence Hall, Philadelphia. America lives today because for over 200 years, there have been women and men who prize freedom above life itself. When our founders signed the Declaration of Independence in July 1776, they did so literally in the shadows of the hangman's noose. Within weeks of the signing, the future of America seemed a lost cause. The British were overwhelming George Washington's ragged band of volunteers. The Continental Congress fled Philadelphia. Thousands of Americans just stopped believing, gave up. And by December, all seemed lost. But then, out of the darkness, from a young Army private, Thomas Paine, came a spark of hope. These are the times that try men's souls. His words challenged those who only gave lip service to the fight to save this country, calling them sunshine patriots and summer soldiers. And his words electrified the people. They were read to George Washington's outnumbered, freezing army as they prepared on that Christmas Eve, 1776, to cross the ice-packed Delaware to take on the world's greatest army. And at Trenton, they won a miraculous victory. But only half the gamble had been won. There still remained the British force at Princeton. For almost a year, George Washington's Continentals had suffered greatly while others stayed home. And now, as fate would have it, the terms of enlistment for most of these soldiers had only one more day to go. They were cold, starving. They wanted to go home to their families. Shivering on ground stained red by their own bloody feet, the regiments formed in ranks to hear their leader. Washington explained that if ever these brave men were needed, it was now. And if they would only stay a little longer, their presence could make the difference for victory. When he finished, Washington rode off to the side and waited. Not one man moved. Their silent refusal meant the end of everything. There would be no America. In shock, Washington's usual reserve gave way as he pleaded, "You've done all I've asked and more than could be reasonably expected. But your country's at stake, your wives, your homes, and all you hold dear. We are facing," he concluded, "the crisis which is to decide our destiny." There was nothing left to be said. Again, there was an uneasy silence. And then, one lone veteran, whose name is lost to history, stepped forward, saying he would not leave if his country still needed him. And then, one, by the twos and threes, all the others stepped forward as well. It was at that moment that America was born. These were the winter soldiers. And now it's time for each of us to step forward and enlist as winter soldiers in the cause of America. I ask you, join with me, first by the hundreds, then by the thousands, then by the hundreds of thousands, until by the millions, we the people reclaim our democracy and our country. As the Great Seal of the United States proclaims, God blesses these undertakings.
The only guy who's offering any sort of solution is Jerry Brown, and I'm going to vote for him.
He sounds like the right guy to me.
When he says we the people, I know he means we the people.
Remember, this may be your last chance to take back America. So call this number now, 1-800-426-1112. That's 1-800-426-1112. Volunteers are waiting to hear from you, so please call now.
This program paid for by Brown for President.
If you want to find out more about the Jerry Brown campaign for president, you can call this number, 1-800-426-1112, or write Brown for President, 2121 Cloverfield Boulevard, Santa Monica, California, 90404.